Welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We're kicking things off with football and continuing to discuss Cavaliers' successful Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League title defense. The 2024-25 season culminated last Friday under the lights at the National Stadium with the Kingston and St Andrew-based club prevailing 6-5 on penalties over Mount Pleasant to win their third title in 5 seasons and fourth top-flight crown overall. Now, to share more about the team's journey to the title defense and the winning culture created in his young group is technical director Rudolph Speed, who is currently in England with the Reggae Boys at the Unity Cup. Rudolph, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. Great to have you on the show. Congratulations formally from the SportsMax Zone. And I'll start by asking you about the secret of the team's success, because Cavalier went 40 years without a title, and now in the last 5 years you've won 3.
Yeah, but it was building. Since 2018, we'd have gone to every semi-final of the JPL. So it was building slowly. But with the pandemic, we saw an opportunity. We trained harder than everyone else, as best as we could. And I think that was when we won our first title. So yeah, it has been hard work. And also, we still was using the young players before. But then we found a way how to ensure that the players who all have objectives, young players, ambitious, were able to tie it in line with the objectives of the club. And I think that is where the success started.
Can you talk a little bit more about the secret? You say you found the way to do that, and you outlined essentially, tying their objectives to the objectives of the club. But could you be a little bit more explicit in that project?
Yeah, well, all players really want to go overseas to play on that stage. They want to get professional contracts. They want to play for national teams. So we're able to say, okay, for you to succeed with that objectives, you are competing not with local players, but with other players from overseas. So based on that fact, this is how you have to approach the game. And I think it worked.
Can you talk to us about the mindset going into this final? Because I remember you labeling Mount Pleasant as finals going into the game. This week I heard the Mount Pleasant general manager Paul Christie suggesting that Cavalier were favourites, and he didn't agree with your statement about Mount Pleasant being favourites, because he said you're Caribbean champions, you knew how to win finals, you were defending champions. So he rejected the view that Mount Pleasant were champions. Can you talk a little about the mindset going into this final and the fact that there were off-the-field issues? Because you had presented a document to the JPL about Mount Pleasant using players that you deemed ineligible. And that, of course, was riding psychologically, I would think, on most people's minds as both teams got ready for this final.
No, once the JFF made well, first of all, I just wanted to say that protests are everyday, normal things done by clubs every single year. Months, people lose points for different things. So as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't a big deal. I think it was made a big deal because of the rivalry of the clubs, but as far as I'm concerned, it wasn't a big deal. Once the JFF made a ruling, which I didn't agree with and still hasn't agreed with it, I just leave that alone. It didn't concern me anymore. We were just focused on getting to the final, because without getting there, it wouldn't have been important. But nobody, you don't have to take my word for it. Your own in-house analyst said that Mount Pleasant is going to win. Last year he said so, this year he said so, they were going to win. So that alone would have made them favorites.
Oh, because Lige Williams said so?
Yeah.
You sound as if you didn't agree with him when he said it.
Not from, I agreed with him that they were favorites, but I didn't agree with him that they were going to win.
Okay, what tactically, you can say it now because the game has gone, made you confident that you had the ability to beat Mount Pleasant, even though their season was almost flawless? And you said it pre-match that their season was impressive.
Yeah, it was. And that's the first thing. You have to admit to certain things for you to be able to come up with a way to defeat somebody who is that good. But I mean, a lot of people in Jamaica look at football the whole way. This is not really that new, but it's fairly new. There is something called the META, META. It stands for most effective tactic available. So that's all we did. We look at the most effective tactic that was available, bearing in mind that my forward line was at about 40%. All three of them had issues, with fatigue, injuries, etc. So we employed the most effective tactics we could. Yes, there was a lot of shots, but if people were looking properly, they would have realized that the shots were from side, not in front of the goal. They were all from the sides, which we deliberately work them in those spaces to take those shots, because to beat Veno Barklet from the sides is like almost impossible. So we had our tactic. We know that they had AI, and they would have picked up busy playing in the left hand, our left hand, their right hand side, most of his attack. We didn't even make him go near that part of the field. So I know some people are upset that I didn't put him there, but guess what? They're not coaching the team. So those are some of the things that we know. We could disrupt their patterns because they were so established, which made it a little bit easier for us to determine what is done.
You just mentioned. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just asking, you just mentioned Veno Barklet. Can you talk to us about how good he is? He is a St. Lucia national goalkeeper, and very, very solid season for him. How good is he?
Oh, he's probably the best in the Caribbean. He went off the boil just a little, but we also have a very good goalkeeper coach in Everdeen Scarlett. And one of the day when he made a blunder, I told Everdeen is not Veno fault, it's yours. And he just looked at me and smiled. I remember one day we worked out Veno. Veno couldn't come to training the next day, so they put in a lot of work together to get him back up to standard, what we know he can do for the playoffs, and he was just brilliant in the playoffs.
Yeah, Rudolph, I'm going to ask you a question, because sometimes I wonder about this. What's the philosophy of Cavalier? Like, when you speak to the bunch of players that you're tasked to work with, what do you say to them?
Different. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's calm. There's a whole lot of different emotions. It's just for you to ensure that on the day you bring in the right message. So the message could be varied, but the team does have a game model. It is not true that we cannot pass the ball. We are one of the best passing team if we want to. What is one of our strengths is our versatility. We can beat you in a variety of ways, not just one way. And so we tend to throw off opponents. They believe they know what we're going to do, but they really don't. So it's that versatility. The players themselves, based on how we train, a lot of mornings is a game. A team versus B team, both teams want to win. So even from training, sometimes it's me as a coach on one side against the coach from the other side. So sometimes that winning mentality will just create it from there. But we do have a game model that we play all the time. We have a philosophy. We have lots of policies that is ingrained in the players from, they come to Cavalier, and the players, just respond very well to the coaching stuff.
Yeah, that's good to hear, Rudolph. But has it ever been a difficult task for you getting the players to buy into the philosophy, or, as you said, the model of the club?
Not really, because there's a big difference. We're organic. 80% of the players play for us from they are 12 years of age. They don't come to the club after they would have developed. So it is instilled in them from age of 13. And one of the things that we have going for us, all the assistant coach for the senior team coaches those teams 13, 15, 17. So that culture is cultivated from there. I mean, I would probably not come and coach except for the under 17s, but I would come to a game and they'll know that I'm there, and they want to play in the senior team, so they know what is expected of them from an early age. And I think that is one of the reasons why we're so successful. We lose players every year. Last year we lose 8. The year before we lose 6. Really don't matter. Is the next man up, so the other young players ready to step up. And only when we see that we don't have the player to step up, do we go outside and try and fill the gaps.
Yeah, you appear to me as somebody who, would love to take on new challenges. So you've conquered the JPL, you've been doing the Champions Cup and all these different competitions. What's next for you, Rudolph? What have you put on that list of yours to do that you haven't been able to do just yet?
Not really. I haven't put anything on it. Someday in the future, yes, I'd want to coach outside of Jamaica or coach on the international level. But the truth is, I'm just in total relaxation now for the next 2 weeks. I haven't been thinking about anything to put on the list. But who knows?
Yeah, Mr. Speed, you said that one day you would love to coach internationally. Would that include the Jamaican national team at any point?
I don't know. I used to tell people that I'm not ready to coach an international team during my development years. So how to answer that question, I think now I'm ready.
Have you expressed this to, let's say, the Jamaica Football Federation? And I know there is a head coach in place, Steve McLaren, and he's doing his thing, but do those in power know that you now feel that you are ready to take on a job at that level? Because let's be honest, at this level, you have certainly distinguished yourself, and at the regional level, you have shown that. And with the youngsters you have at Cavalier, you continue to show that certainly as a tactician, you are among the very best in the business.
No, I think it's breaking news on SportsMax, but it doesn't cross my mind about what exactly I want to do. It could also be, a club team overseas. I mean, it could be another country, which a few have asked me recently, to do their team. So I'm not saying where it will be, but yeah, I think that would be a good challenge.
Yeah, let us say you did move on. What would that mean for the structure of Cavalier Football Club? Because I get the impression you're a little bit more than just a technical director.
Yeah, I'm the sporting director. So all technical policies, come through me somehow. But Cavalier has grown over the years. They have additional persons in place. Yes, we'll probably have to look at coach. But I don't know. But I don't think they'll suffer a great deal. I think they could manage. Everdeen, Leila, those people are very good students of the game now. They know the game inside out. They know me inside out. I think they could survive.
Very much the case. By the way, we know that you're in England. The Reggae Boys are there. They beat Trinidad and Tobago yesterday. They will have Nigeria to play in the Unity Cup final on Saturday. Can you give us a quick assessment on how you thought the team played yesterday and how much more they will likely have to improve to be a serious challenge to the Nigerians who beat Ghana by 2-1 earlier today?
I think the team really surprised me yesterday how they played. Some of the players were very outstanding based on the reports that I would have gotten before. The team looked like a typical, they pass the ball around, they attacked. I thought if we were poor, it would have been in the finishing. I thought we should have been out of sight before Trinidad came back and tied the game 2-2. But it's very heartening to see that this team, we're struggling to put a good team together. And as I said before, I feel them really impressed. Now, as to the difference between Nigeria and Trinidad, I'm not sure, really. But I can tell you that most games are close. The players showed heart and fight and desire that they want to be on that World Cup qualifying team and also the Gold Cup. So I think you'll see another capital effort from Jamaica. I really was impressed with a couple of the players. Well, a lot of the players, they really did surprise me.
Yeah.
I think we'll be able to put up a good show.
Yeah, I want to put one name to you because he was making his debut, scored the second goal, Raman Burell, and I think it's probably the first time most Jamaicans would have been seeing him. What were your thoughts on his introduction to the setup?
Oh, his movement was brilliant. His movement, his running, the way he runs through defense line, and not being outside, I thought that was very impressive. He looked like a proper centre forward, and that was very impressive for me. for a team to really function, you need one of those, and I thought he did extremely well.
All right, Rudolph, thank you very much for linking with us. Again, congratulations on your fabulous success with this Cavalier team, not just this season, but your entire campaign with this club. Significant that you've done so well with the club. Before you go, may I ask you your secret, though, because most coaches age significantly with the stresses of the job. You're 60 years old and you look like 40. What's the secret?
Don't know. I suppose the amount of joy that I've been getting from the pictures.
All right, Speedy. Well said, sir. That's a very good answer. And all the best with the Jamaica team in the Unity Cup final. Rudolph Speed.
Thank you very much.
All right, congratulations. Fabulous job there, Rudolph Speed. He had said all season that he wasn't worried about Cavalier not being regular season champions, Ricardo and Mariah. And he turned out to be right, because he just wanted his team to be at its best when the playoffs started and when the matches had that level of importance. We haven't seen a regular season champion winning the Premier League title since 2019 with Portmore. So there is a trend that regular season champions struggle to retain their form throughout the playoffs and go all the way to the title.
And sometimes I don't think it's that they necessarily struggle to retain their form. I think it's more that once you get to a certain point of the season and the chasing clubs are in comfortable qualifying positions, sometimes you prioritize ensuring that you get to the playoffs with all your players fit, full of running, being able to push through the playoffs. So you're not necessarily, after a certain point, pushing to top the table because you're just trying to get into the playoffs. And I know sometimes as well that part of it is you want to finish in the top two, so you skip the quarterfinal stage. But if you think about Cavalier, for example, there was a point at which it was clear they were not going to be top two. And from around that point, you could hear Rudolph Speed sort of saying, listen, the aim is just to get to the playoffs, and then we will show ourselves at full strength. And I think that's been happening a lot with the JPL over these years, and that's part of the reason that we're not seeing the regular season champions going on to win the title.
It's a smart tactic, though. Why go so hard when you can just make the playoffs and then actually win the title?
Yeah, Cavalier finished fourth in the table, but in their case, they had issues because they had a lot of injuries, and you heard the Speed say just now that his entire forward line would have been about 40% fit for those playoffs and the semis and the finals. So congrats again to Cavalier. Wonderful performance, 3 titles in 5 years. We go to break and we'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.